Well. Hello, friends. It's Christian again. I am here with part 2 of AccuMark 3D version 12, What's New webinar recordings. So we have separated ourselves or decided not to do the What's New for 3D in a webinar format where we have everyone dial in at the same time, because webinars are fickle and sometimes there are technical difficulties, so we figured it's just easier to record videos and then allow everyone to watch them on their own time. This also gives you the opportunity to pause the video if you have the software installed at that time and actually try things out as I'm educating you on what we've done for V12. So like I said, this is part 2. If you missed part 1, make sure you go ahead and watch part 1 first. It will help set up some of the features that I'm going to talk about in part 2. I tried to divide things pretty cleanly so that in part 1 we were really focused on the AccuMark 3D enhancements that you will use in Model Editor and what you will use in PDS and the AccuMark 3D workspace within PDS. And this time around we're going to focus more on things in the 3D viewport, so things in that Blender viewport. So we have a lot of features there too. All right, so one thing I want to start with, in the part 1 recording, I forgot to mention another very helpful feature that we've added, or really, it's not a feature that we've added, but we've made a revision to a feature. Many of you know that when you export a zip, your AccuMark zip files, your 3D information goes with it. So when I say 3D information, I mean things like your piece setup. So if we look at what I have on the screen here, everything that I have set up that you're looking at in terms of the position of this shirt on the avatar and the stitching relationships, all of these things are saved in the background of my model. So if I were to zip this file and send it to one of my friends, if I send it to Sarah or Mary, they can open it on their systems and they'll already have this avatar installed, because this is an avatar that's installed with AccuMark. So they can then take my model and open it without having to do anything extra. And that's just with your plain old AccuMark zip file, including components. Now, there was also, and there is also, an option to include 3D components. And we've had some users in the past have a little bit of confusion about when they use include components and when to use include 3D components. So we went back and we made a revision to this feature to allow users to use include 3D components, and it will only include the 3D components that relate to the model or models you are zipping at that time. So in the past, what include 3D components did was it tried to go through your system and sweep up and collect all of your fabric tables and avatars and everything in your fabrics folder. So it made this huge file that you were never able to email because it was so huge. Well, now the file sizes have gotten a little bit smaller, because it's going to go in when you say include 3D components and find the avatar for that style and the fabric table for that style, the images associated with it. It is not going to grab avatars and images in the fabric tables that do not relate specifically to that style. Wonderful enhancement that I think will make sharing data especially a little easier for people within companies, or those of you out there who are supporting customers. They can send you their data. Now remember, once you have someone's avatar on your system, if someone creates a custom avatar, once they've sent it to you once and you've installed it in your system, if they have other models using that avatar, they don't need to include 3D components for you to have that avatar. They just need to do a regular old export zip and include components, and they'll be all set, good to go, and you'll be able to simulate. If for some reason you don't have the right avatar, you don't have the correct fabric table, AccuMark 3D will let you know. It'll say, hey, we don't have the fabric table for this style, at which point, if they need to send you a new one, they can send you a new fabric table. So I meant to include that on part 1 and I did not, so now there you have it. There have been changes to export zip and include 3D components. The other thing that I wanted to spend a little bit more time on from part 1 was the new piece properties function. So in part one, we went over this great new function that allows you to go in and adjust the properties of a piece right here in pattern design. So you don't have to go out to model 3D garment properties or make these edits in your model anymore. So things like adjusting a layer. And you can adjust any other things here as well. If you want to change the wrap type of a piece or something like that, you can do all of that right here. There I just changed my layer. I'm going to change it back. You do also have a multi-select. So I mentioned multi-select in the instance of like your shirt front or something like that. So I can multi-select and then change both pieces at the same time. So I've changed both of those layers there. One of the things that I forgot to mention is that when you're using this function, you don't have to include pieces that are flips when you're doing multi-select. So say for example with my sleeves, these are flips. I don't have to select both of them because properties still apply per piece, whether it's a flip or not. So if I select one sleeve and I make an adjustment and I say, I don't know, what am I going to change? I'm going to change it to being flat pieces. I strike enter. It changes both of my sleeves here to being flat. So you don't have to use multi-select to make edits to things that are flips. It'll do that automatically. Okay, so I'm going to just go back and change those back to being on cylinders instead of being flat. There we go. All right, so with that, I'm just going to fix my sleeves here since I was playing around with them. With that, I'm going to go ahead and launch the simulation, and we're going to go to Blender. I have several models open here. So we have been working very, very hard, adding new features, testing them, and really thinking about what is going to make AccuMark 3D a better product for all of the customers out there that we are really focusing on, and we really want to make this the best product that we can for those who have to use it. So I'm just going to enlarge my buttons here so you guys can see them. There we go. Okay, so let me go ahead and allow this to simulate. So for those of you who don't know, to start and pause the simulation, you can do that with your keyboard. You don't have to select the button. You can use Alt-A. So that starts and stops the simulation. You may also notice that my avatar's arms are going down. That's something that we added. We added a library of 10 avatars that put their arms down. So that is something we also covered in part one. But now you get another opportunity to see that in action. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down in my toolbar here. Oops, made my avatar smaller. Actually, I can go ahead and pause that simulation now. There we go. And one of the things that I want to mention is that the new avatars that we're including, most of them, including the avatars that you create with our new avatar editor, will have the points of measure displayed on the avatar. So I have all of those lines and points of measure there. And that's really great because then if I toggle the transparency on the garment, I can again cross-reference the garment with the points of measure on the body and make sure certain parts of the garment are hitting where they should be. So that's really helpful. But with that as well, you also have the option to show hide points of measure. So that's a simple and easy feature, but the new avatars that have points of measure marked on them, you can toggle those on and off if you need to. Okay, so with this garment, I want to spend some time to go over the new copy trim image function. So in 11.0, we added a piece properties panel. And before that, in 10.4 and 10.3, we did a lot to add trim image manipulation right here in the 3D viewport. So this is a big win for all those who have been working with the AccuMark digital printing workflow and all of the cool things that we've been adding for images in 2D. We try to make sure that we're adding things in 3D as well that's going to help users really get the most out of the full suite of AccuMark products. So what we've added recently to this panel is a copy trim feature. So you already had the option to add trim images, but when you're working in 3D, each piece maintains its own images. So for example, I want my picture of the Eiffel Tower here to carry over on his pocket. So to do that, before I would have to go to add, find this picture of my system and put it here, but then I'd also end up having to scale it to try to get the same scale that I have already. Well, now we've added this copy trim function, so I can just select copy trim, and I'll select my picture and then select which piece I want to place it on. I'm going to select the pocket, and there we go. And I know that this image is exactly the same scale as this one. It will try to maintain rotation as well, but when you make adjustments, or if you change, copy an image and you move it to the back, it may come in upside down because the UV map that we use, sort of the nest that 3D is referring to for the placement of these images, will usually place the back upside down. So you may have to just go to your properties panel here and rotate, but all in all, it's not bad. So now I just go here and I can move this guy down. I gave myself some lines here. So now I can place that perfectly. And this pocket is slanted a little bit when it was sewn on in the pattern to try to get it to be placed more upright on the shirt. But with that, I can still copy my trim image, add it here, and make sure I have my lines lining up perfectly. And then, of course, this change also syncs back to pattern design. So if I click Sync 3D Changes here, and then I'm going to open this style up in pattern design again, and click Sync 3D Changes here, now I have that placed perfectly on my pocket. Then save it, and I am ready to go off to the printer or to plot this pattern piece with the placement of these images there. So we'll go back here now. So one of the other cool features that we've added for V12 that we're all very excited about, is something people have been asking for quite a while, is the export image feature. Now this is something that we're still working on, so we have a little bit more work to do that we'll keep cleaning this up between now. Right now we're in the process of beta testing V12, but between now, at our position of being about halfway through the beta process, and before V12 is released, we will make some changes to this feature. So if you're watching this video and 12 has been released, you may notice the features are different. Well, okay, so I'm telling you why now. I just want to hide my avatar. Take a look at my garment here. And here is my Export Images panel. So the Export Images panel gives you several angles that you can choose from for your garment. So you can take your main view. I'm going to toggle perspective on there. Striking the 5 key on your number pad toggles perspective on and off. So I like to take images with perspective on. So I have this whole panel here for export images, and I can click and select which angles I want. Let's say for now I'm going to do my front. I'm going to do 160 and do 300. I'm selecting completely random ones. So once I select which angles of rotation I want, I click Export. And it's going to open up my Export Image Manager, and it also gives me the option to do some manipulations with my layout. So you just give it a moment to process, and another miniature window will open up in a second here. There we go. Okay, so and these images are pretty high resolution, so from far back sometimes they can look a little strange, but they're okay. In this Export Images Manager here, you have a few options. So you can click to select any one of your images, and notice when I do that, it gives me some information about that piece. So I can click and it tells me this is my 60-degree view, this is my 300-degree view. And each image also has a bounding box, so you can make one smaller or larger. Here you have horizontal, vertical, or grid to quick snap to certain angles. and do horizontal. And then I also here have some options to tell it to make my canvas scale automatically. So with automatic turned on, what that does is when I move images, you see how it's clipping my canvas for me. And this just makes sure you have an image that's pretty tight. It's automatically going to export with a transparent background, so it can go right into any presentations or things like that that you may have that you want to put this in. So I'm just going to keep moving these guys to find a layout I like. That looks pretty cool. And once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and save this. So I'm going to say that I want to do 300 dpi because we love large images. And I have the option to click Save Files Individually. What Save Files Individually will do is it will create an individual PNG for each one of my angles here. But once I click Save, just go right here into my v12, name this image test. Now it saved this image out and saved the individual files. So I'm just going to find that folder. Here are my individual angles saved out for me. Notice the images are cleaned up and clipped already. And now there's my trio and my layout. Great, so that's export image. There are lots of other features hidden in this little export image window too. We had an intern spend the whole summer working on this, and then the rest of our engineering team plugged it into AccuMark after the internship was up. But I think all in all, the team did a really great job. I'm really excited about this feature. But within this window as well, you also have the option to save layout. So if I want to do more of this layout with other garments, if I click Save Layout, when I come back in with another garment, I can click Export Last Layout, and it will take the new garment and set it up in the same configuration that I just created. And I won't have to open up the Export Image Manager or anything like that. I'll be all set and ready to go. Okay, so another button here in my Export Images panel is Export Turntable. This is also a feature that people have been asking for a while. So what Export Turntable does, I am going to go to my very full desktop, and I'm going to create a new directory. Save this, Paris t-shirt test. And I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to click Export Turntable. What this is going to do, and it's going to take a while, but it's going to take 36 images, so every 10 degrees of my garment, it takes an image, and then it's going to dump all of those images into this folder. So this is another quick way if you want to get even more angles than we allow you to select from. You can get all 36 just by doing Export Image, and it will save out pretty high resolution images for you. And then it will also add an HTML file, and then you can send these images and the HTML file to someone who doesn't have AccuMark, someone who doesn't have Blender, and they'll be able to spin this around and take a look at it. Okay, so that took a few minutes to create this turntable image, but now I am, notice, in Google Chrome, just in a web browser. And I can turn my t-shirt around. So it moves a little slow because the images are pretty high res. But all in all, I think this is a great feature. I hope you guys enjoy it and give us some good feedback on it. Well, give us any feedback that you have. And any feedback that you have will be good to hear, whether or not the feedback itself and the tone of what you're saying is good. We take all of your feedback seriously, and we are delighted to hear it so that we can move the product forward. Okay, we're going to take a look at an older style. Here's our good old friend Stan. Everybody remember Stan? Let me launch this simulation. is now I want to talk about some other features that I am very, very excited about. And they would be freeze piece, release seam, and live drag. All right, so I'm using a pretty wide grid here just for demoing to the field purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and start my simulation. Allow those pieces to come together. I'm using Stan for a reason, because my buddy Stan here has been good to us over the years, but he has a very interesting arch to his body here. He's sort of leaning back a little bit. So then what's happening to the fit of my shirt here is that it's sort of hiking up a little bit. Well, we have some cool new features that I cannot wait to show you. Let me make my buttons bigger again. There we go. To do that, I just make sure my arrow, my cursor is pointing. To make the buttons bigger in Blender, temporarily, what I can do is just point my cursor here and then use the minus and plus key on your number pad. It'll make your buttons bigger. All right, so with my simulation running, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to use my freeze piece. It's a new feature for v12 to select the collar band and freeze that. And now I'm going to select from release stitching, seam, and I'm going to release his neck. I'm going to release shoulder seam, and I'm going to release shoulder seam there. All right. Now you'll notice they're coming together. Oops, I didn't release on this side. Let me grab this guy here. Right. So I've released the seam, so it's like the stitching isn't here. We still have the connection points, but that's fine. And now using my live drag, another new feature for v12, I'm going to go here and I can tug on his shirt, because what I want to do is get my shirt to be balanced here. So I have a shirt with stripes on it for a reason, so I can try to see when they're going a little bit more straight. I can even go in the back here and tug that guy up a little bit. Okay, and now on my shirt, I can kind of see a little bit of the pattern adjustments that maybe I need to make to help this guy be a little bit more balanced. The shirt's still not quite perfect, but it's a big improvement, and you guys can see a little bit of what those features can do together. So what I did again, I froze my collar stand, so that makes that piece frozen and deactivate it from the stitching. And then I also went and used my release seam to go through and release the shoulder seam here, and also the neckline. And now if I want to get an idea of how far apart this is, so I can see what kind of adjustment I might want to make, I just go to my Extended Tools tab and use my measure tools that have been here since version 1, measure straight, and say okay, okay. And I can see that we need about roughly 1.5 inches of space there. So that's about how much that's released. I can also take some off of my back neck there maybe. Yeah, so that is freeze piece, release seam, release stitching rather, and live drag. Live drag is great because while your simulation is running now, it gives you the option of dragging. So I can tug on things. Now this depends very heavily on your system performance. So if you have a system that is not up to spec, this is a reason to update. Because this works much better when you have a system that has a lot of power behind it. Live drag only works while the simulation is running. So if I disable my simulation there, you see live drag is now disabled and deactivated. Cool beans. So let me go ahead. I want to show you guys another style and another application for freeze piece. Okay, so I'm going to open my polo style. Okay, and open 3D. Perfect. and I am going to simulate this style too. Again, I'm leaving my grid size large here just so the simulation runs quickly. Perfect. So with my freeze piece options, I can do quite a lot. When a piece is frozen, it is completely deactivated from the simulation at that time. So think about doing multiple layers in a garment. Think about when you have multiple garments in a simulation. Freeze gives you the option to freeze all. So that's what I'm going to do. And when pieces are frozen, you have the option to do show hide frozen. So all the frozen pieces, it's like they're not even in the simulation. Okay, so all of my pieces are frozen. I'm going to allow my simulation to start running. So I'm going to do Alt-A. And now I can selectively unfreeze pieces. So I'm going to go to Freeze Piece and unfreeze my front and back. Right click to exit the function and they come together. Isn't that cool? Okay, and then let's see, what do I want to do next? Let's do these guys up here. So I'm going to go Freeze Piece, select that piece, and this piece, and this piece. Okay, it's all looking good. So I'm going to do my collar now. Super fantastic. And now let's go ahead and get these last few guys on there. So some of the other tricks and things that you can do with Freeze Piece, I think it is amazing. Another thing that you can do, so we know collars are something that can be a little difficult to simulate, especially when you're in a 3D environment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause my simulation. I'm going to start over. And this time I am just going to freeze my collar. Okay. And now I allow my simulation to run. Everything comes into place. Great. I am going to click Move, grab my collar, strike my Z key so it locks to the Z axis and move that straight down. Okay, my simulation is still running. You see I still start pause there. And now I'm going to do Unfreeze All. So that's a really quick and easy way to get a really great result with your collar. So it's much easier than it's been in other versions. So, woohoo! Okay, so now, dun dun dun. All of you, I'm sure, have heard a lot about what we have been doing with Avimetric. Avimetric is now officially a part of the Gerber team, so we're all excited. We are one big team now, and we're already working together very well, and now we're able to take that to the next level. So we're all super excited. So version 12 has enhanced functionality with the Avimetric engine. So any of you who experimented in version 11 know that was our introduction to Avimetric, and now we have even more things going on, and it's really great. So in your physics modes, under your engines, you'll have two options. You have the Avimetric Phase 2 engine, which is going to give you the best results. And then you also have an Avimetric Draft mode. Avimetric Draft mode is a version of the Avimetric engine that does not subdivide the meshes as small, so that means it runs faster. So if you want performance and you want to get the simulation quick, use Avimetric Draft mode. If you want all the detail, like the fine wrinkles and things like that, you're going to want to go with Avimetric Phase 2. Okay, so those of you who worked in version 11 know that when you're working with the Avimetric engine, you have to allow the garment to go through a process called frame 0 or process frame 0. What frame 0 is a state where the garment brings all the pieces together so that it can apply the physics. The Avimetric engine requires the pieces come together without any collisions before it can apply its physics to get the great looking simulations. And that frame 0 processing happens right here in our AccuMark 3D PDS work area. Now, when you have one of the Avimetric engines selected, either Phase 2 or Draft mode, frame 0 is going to kick off automatically. with Avimetric engines, you can also start with a larger grid size. I have to apologize to my friends outside of the US. I am working in imperial right now. I'm in inches, so forgive me. But in metric, you guys can work in the Avimetric engine with a 1.5 centimeter grid or even a 2 centimeter grid and get a great result. Maybe up to 2.5 centimeters. That's what I'm at right now with my 1 inch. So frame 0. I am going to review something that we added in 11.0, which is ordered sewing. Frame 0 needs the pieces to come together, as I said, without collision. So sometimes it's helpful for you to be able to select which order you're going to have the pieces process in. So ordered sewing allows you to do just that. With ordered sewing enabled here in my test panel, I'm going to click cloth simulation. Nothing happens yet because it's waiting for input from me. I'm going to hold Control and select my front and back. Those pieces turn green and they come together. And it'll say processing, please wait. And when it's done with that level, it'll ask me for the next one. Okay, select your next pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do my sleeves. Processing sewing, please wait. Okay, now it's done. I want to select my pocket and my neck. Once this comes together without collisions, it'll go right to Blender and open my Blender viewport here. Okay, so that's ordered sewing, and that was added in 11.0 to help with the simulations. I'm going to close this because in v12, the engineering department made some enhancements that help Frame 0 process better on its own. And what it does is automatically it will process each piece based on which layer number it's assigned to. So I'm going to go ahead and make some adjustments real quick. I'm going to go to my piece properties and I'm going to give my neckband a higher layer because I want that to go last. I'm going to also adjust it. Cylinder, move it down. Perfect. Now, as of v12, if I'm using the Avimetric engine and I do cloth simulation, let me hide my avatar. I'll just zoom in a little bit there. I'm going to click cloth simulation. And it's going to process frame 0, and notice it does the layers that are lowest first. So those were layer 1, then we have layer 3, and now layer 4 and 5. And launches my simulation for me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause my simulation. With the Avimetric engine, we do get material thickness. So once you pause the simulation, it will extrude on the edges and you'll see the material thickness. There we go. We have our oversized nightshirt. Okay, so what else do we need to go over at this point? We still have more features to go. So we've sort of gone over Avimetric features. We have gone over our freeze piece options, our release seam, live drag, copy image, show high points of measure, export zip, talked a little bit more about piece properties, and we're still not done, folks. So stay tuned for part 3. In part 3, we need to talk about Visu images, render mode, and avatar edit, which were all things that we developed early on and had our own little opportunities to test it in a very limited release called 11.1 that we really only worked on internally because we wanted some extra time to really test these features. So, yes, more to go. This has been another interesting installment. Thank you guys so much for watching. So I'll conclude much like I concluded part 1. We are very anxious to hear your feedback on all the features that we have been developing, what else you guys need to really make this product successful and to make you successful. So let us know what you need. We're excited that you're working in v12. Welcome. And again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me at any time. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget to check out your What's New document. So in the video, we're going through features that are in the What's New document, but our V12 What's New document, we actually wrote up manual style. So it's written as it would be in a manual, so you have step-by-step how to use the features. So it took us a little bit more time to write it, but I think it was worth it. In that, you also have helpful hints. So one of them being things to help you decide when to use a Gerber engine, meaning your alternate default or draft engines, or the Avimetric engines, which would be your Avimetric Phase 2 and Avimetric Draft Mode. So there's lots of helpful information there. We have a checklist. There are certain features that we've implemented and we could implement for the Gerber engines a little bit easier. So for example, you'll notice now that I have an Avimetric simulation up. My release stitching and freeze piece options are grayed out because they don't work with the Avimetric engine quite yet, but we're working on it. So if you have reviewed your What's New and you have feedback on that as well, we'd love to hear it. So thank you and stay tuned for part 3.